All I knew was that I could, on that day, pack a bag, or it was actually two small carry-on suitcases that had enough clothes for me and my kids for 2 days. I knew where we could stay for the next 2 nights, and that was enough.
And sometimes that's all you actually need. Welcome to Single Parent Success Stories, a podcast designed to inspire single parents. Here you'll find resources from self-care to finances to parenting and everything in between. Discover what it takes to thrive. Let the stories inspire you to what is possible. Give the woman in your life something that truly matters, or better yet, give it to yourself. The gift inside is for every woman who spent decades being everything to everyone else. It's time to remember who you are and rediscover your happiness. This isn't just a book, it's a permission to put yourself first again. Available now, because the best gift you can give is helping someone find themselves. Welcome, Schalee Sanchez, the fun-loving encourager whose contagious joy brightens every place she enters. She is joining us from Texas. She is a grateful mom of 4 incredible teenagers and also the author of Humility You Want and the World Needs, 7 transformative tools for personal growth to develop inspiring leadership, improve relationships, and attain inner peace. Welcome, Schalee. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much, Irina. I am thrilled to be here with you today.
Thank you. So please share with us, how did you become a single parent?
Well, let me start back about 2 decades ago, because in order to be a single parent, I first have to become a parent, right? So I got married in my early 20s and was in an emotionally abusive relationship for almost 2 decades. I had 4 children during that time and got to the place where I was entirely hopeless. I did not know how to get out of the relationship. And because of my children, I thought it was best to stay in the relationship. However, when I was at a place of needing that change to happen, there was an incredible amount of support that I received from some close friends who helped me make that decision and then safely take action toward leaving with my children. It was the absolute best decision that I could have made. At the time, I was so scared I wasn't able to see that. However, 2 weeks later, sitting with my children at dinner and hearing them tell me, "Mom, thank you so much for leaving. We've been wanting you to leave for a very long time." It was exactly the confirmation I needed to know that however hard this was going to be, it was going to be worth it. And for me, it was a leap of going into the unknown, because during that time of being married, I did not have a career. I did not work outside of the home, and being able to think about providing for 4 children, having a job, finding a new place to live, really creating an entirely new life. It was overwhelming.
Yeah, wow. But thank you for having the courage to leave, because sometimes we stay too long in the things that are not working because we are so afraid. What if outside is even worse than what I have now? Because now I am familiar with how bad it is, but outside I don't know what it is. And your children confirm to you that. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for taking that bold step. That, yes, it is difficult, but you probably came to a point when you were so sick and tired of being in what you were that you needed to take that difficult step. You could no longer continue living how you were living. You had to do something different. What are some of the challenges you faced when you became a single parent?
I already mentioned a few of them, but let me expound a little bit more. As I said, the 4 children and I left not knowing where we were going to live. So at first, thankfully, we had friends who allowed us to live in their homes. So for 2 months, we were moving around to different people's homes as I looked for a job. And it was a challenge to find a job that would provide sufficient salary and have health benefits. However, it was, like you said, there's so much unknown that feels scary. And having the support of friends during that time is what made it possible to continue moving forward. It was a challenge to create a resume, but I had a friend help me do that. It was a challenge to go to the first job interview, but I had encouragement from friends in doing that as well. And each step felt like I had to overcome fear. And there was, I think, one of the biggest challenges was overcoming those fears of my own insecurities, of not having sufficient experience, not being in a place professionally where I was going to be able to provide financially for my kids. So a lot of it was that doubt, the self doubt, and that was created during 2 decades of the emotional abuse of devaluing who I was as a person, and that learning to understand my true worth, having that mind shift of understanding the value that I have as a human being was very challenging and had to take quite a bit of time of intentional sessions with a therapist to get to the point of being able to trust myself and be confident enough to make decisions that would have good results.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. What kept you going on the days when fear felt stronger than hope?
There are a few things that I want to mention that kept me going. One was my understanding of God's presence in my life, and his love for me was an assurance that gave me hope even when I wasn't able to see any light ahead. The second thing that kept me going was my children. I wanted to give them my best, and because of them being a part of my life, it was that additional encouragement and motivation. I wanted to be able to see them thriving. I wanted to be able to see them experiencing a better life. I wanted to be able to give them the best care possible. And so that was definitely a huge part of me being able to move forward. And then the third part of it was the friends and community that surrounded me and would call and would come over and would ask how I was doing and would give me truth that would then allow me to see the way that I could move forward.
Yeah, thank you. Those are so important, and that you had a community. I think it's very valuable that you don't feel like you're alone, because there are people there that can support you, and the bravery to ask for help. Because oftentimes, I don't know about you, for me, it was difficult asking for help because I always was on the giving end of help, not on the receiving end of help, and it was kind of a different shift. You talk about taking one brave step at a time. What was one small step in those early days that made a big difference for you and your kids?
So often for me, the hesitation of being courageous and taking a step forward comes because I want to know what the next steps are going to be after that first step. And wanting to know all the details makes me more hesitant to take that first step. However, in that moment when I knew it was time to leave, the most important thing that I could do in that moment was leave. It didn't matter that I could figure out all the other details or know what was going to happen after that or know exactly how it would all unfold. All I knew was that I could, on that day, pack a bag, or it was actually two small carry-on suitcases that had enough clothes for me and my kids for 2 days. I knew where we could stay for the next 2 nights, and that was enough. that decision to leave was what enabled everything else to unfold. And if I had chosen to wait until I knew what was going to happen after that 48-hour period and how I was going to be able to make it after that, then I wouldn't have ever taken that step. And I think that that has continually been a part of the progress that I've been able to make over the past 2 years, because it was 2 years ago, September 8th of 2023 when we left. And in so many different points along this journey, it's a matter of being brave enough to take a step without knowing exactly all the details of what's ahead.
I love it. It's like having faith and taking that step, and
Absolutely.
then the next step will show up once you start trusting, start taking that faith.
Right. Yes.
Your story shows incredible resilience. What do you think your teenagers learned from watching you rebuild your life?
It is my great joy to see how my kids are learning from my example. And one of the most recent evidences of that has been that my second daughter, who graduated in the spring from high school, made a decision to go to Florida and attend college there, which is something that previous to 2 years ago wouldn't have even been a consideration for her. And my oldest daughter, who is currently 19, has made the decision to go spend 3 months in Spain next year. Those decisions help bring, I mean, they just show the evidence of the change that has occurred in the mindset of my children, because before they would have seen everything through a lens of limitation and what they can't do and what isn't possible for them. And that no longer is a cloud that they're living under. They're able to see possibilities and try new things and live a life that is really giving them opportunities to enjoy fully the opportunities that they have.
I love it. That's incredible. And you being the real life example, not something you read in a book, but you are right next to you. You can experience that you are there. And it's, I think, so more visceral when you are in living presence of somebody who knows how difficult it is, but still takes that difficult decision, takes that step, however, not knowing what's next gonna happen, but going for it. Awesome. I love it. If you were to go back in the past, what kind of advice would you give to younger version of you?
It's really great to think about the past because we learn from it, and think about what would be something that I would have wanted to say to myself in that moment. And for me, I think that the best thing that I could have heard then was for someone to tell me it's okay to leave. There was this lack of giving myself permission. And I think that being able to have that internal voice of, Schalee, you have permission to do what is best for you and for your kids, rather than continuing to allow the script and narrative of what I had been ingrained with for 40 years of my life, that there are other possibilities that we can be open to. And I was holding on to what I thought would be the best life for me and my kids. However, once I gave myself permission to look at things from a true perspective of the emotional and mental and psychological damage that was being done, it gave me the opportunity to see there is a better life available to us.
Totally, totally. That's amazing. Thank you, thank you. What led you to write your book? What inspired you?
There are two factors really that inspired me. One was seeing the damage that arrogance causes. When you are in relationships, when any of us are in a relationship with someone who is not able to see that they're ever wrong, who always is doing what is beneficial for them and not willing to see how that is impacting the people around them, it is a very damaging relationship to be in. So I saw the damage that arrogance can cause. On the other side, I was able to experience the ways that humility can transform a relationship, a situation, and a life entirely. When humility influences our decisions, influences our behavior, then it emboldens us to make those decisions that will truly be beneficial. There's a part of culture and the understanding. Sometimes there's misconceptions about humility. And I also experienced some of those misconceptions about in order to be humble, that means you're submissive and quiet and passive and you let the other person make the decisions because they know what's best. And then I learned that true humility encourages and empowers and enables us to be very courageous and take action based on what is truly beneficial for everyone involved. That I think is the strongest motivation is I want other people to experience how humility is truly a powerful strength that is available to us to respond in a world where arrogance can be causing damage in a way that is full of grace and truth that makes it possible for us to see what is the best way for this particular situation to be handled. We're able to, in that position of humility, understand in a more in a fuller sense and with a deeper understanding of what is actually going to be beneficial for the people involved.
I love it. So you are kind of putting a different light on humility. Not that just that, like you said, it's not just being submissive or obedient or always quiet, but looking at it from a different perspective, from a different lens. How amazing
Yes,
it can
absolutely.
be, especially when you compare something that like that to arrogance, showing kind of two sides of things and rediscovering of that. What was it difficult? What it was your first book? What
Yes.
was your experience like of writing a book? What was the best part and the worst part? Or maybe everything
Yes.
was awesome.
It was a challenge in a lot of ways to write a book. It was my first time. So the first thing that I did was I prayed and said, God, if I'm going to write a book, I need a writing coach. I need to connect with someone who can help me step by step walk through this process. And God did give me someone that was able to help me through it. So it was a matter of learning along the way with each step. Okay, I just need to get through this step. And once the title is selected and once the outline is completed and once I've done the research. And so it was a matter of focusing on each step at a time, not allowing myself to get overwhelmed with the entire process of moving from not having a book to it being published. Biggest challenge, I think, was when I got to the point where I had the manuscript and then making the decision of choosing an editor because I wanted it to be the best that it could be. And it was, what am I going to do if, I choose the wrong editor? What if it's not the quality that I want it to be? Again, allowing humility to influence that decision of I'm going to make decisions based on what I know in this moment and move forward and learn along the way, then allowing the process to unfold gave that ability to then say, I'll work with this editor and continue moving forward. It ended up being a great experience, and the editor that I had was fantastic to work with. We went through numerous versions, so back and forth, having a lot of things that changed in the process, but is something that for me, as someone who really appreciates excellence and values high quality, getting to that place of, okay, it's ready to be published. I struggled to get to that place of saying, okay, it's ready, but I'm very pleased with having the opportunity. Have seen over and over again from the response people have had who have been able to read the book, how it truly is benefiting their lives, and not only their lives, but as a ripple effect, it is impacting their families, it is impacting their workspace, it is impacting so many different areas of their influence. And that is exactly that was my reason for doing it. That was my reason for writing the book, was to be able to see this positive transformation occur in people understanding what true humility is and how it can be lived out in very practical ways in our lives, whether that's in a conversation with a colleague at work or in a conversation at home with our kids. It applies in all areas of our lives.
I love it. Thank you. Can you share one example of humility?
Yes, I actually have received a few different testimonies from people, and it's always encouraging. I'll share one that recently a woman was really excited to tell me about because she was at work and she had been reading some of the book that morning. She was at work and had a virtual call with a client, and one of her colleagues was on the call with her, and she was leading the call. So they took care of business and then got off the call. And her colleague said, Hey, I want to share some comments with you about the call that we just had. And her colleague told her a few different things that would improve her leadership. And she said she felt in that moment this instinct of wanting to react with her elevated ego of, I just nailed that. I just did a great job on that call. And you're trying to tell me that I could have done better, that I could have done things differently. And she said she paused, which is something that I encourage people to do all the time. Arrogance and elevated ego will constantly offer us an option of how we can react to a situation. And it's in that moment of pause, which, it can be just a very brief moment of pausing and allowing ourselves to see what humility offers us. And so she said she just paused, took a moment to reflect, okay, how can I respond better in this moment? So she, instead of saying, instead of getting upset and just walking away from the conversation, she let herself out loud say, Thank you for bringing that to my attention. And then from that, she was able to then move even farther and deeper into saying, could we set up a time to meet so that I can practice doing those things in a better way with you so that the next time I get on a call, then I'll be able to do that. It was really encouraging to me to hear the way that she was able to respond so differently. Because, if she would have gotten upset and just walked away from the conversation, she wouldn't have been able to improve her leadership. But because she responded with gratitude, which is one of the elements that is so closely tied with humility, and I talk about that in the book, it enabled her to see this is actually beneficial, not just for me. This is beneficial for our company. This is beneficial for our clients. If I take the time with my colleague to practice doing this better, then the ripple effect of that is going to be so good. And so opening herself up to that, allowing herself to see this is an opportunity that I'm being given to grow, and I'm going to choose growth. That's, one of the things about arrogance is it keeps us stuck. It keeps us from a willingness to grow and learn because we think, I already know how to do this. Like, I don't need to learn anything. The way I'm doing it is just fine. And humility gives us that openness and willingness. I can learn something. I can do something better. I don't know it all yet. So yeah, that was one moment just recently that someone shared with me that was really inspiring about the impact that humility had specifically for her and her colleague and her clients and her company. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you. I think it's such a brilliant example of how it can work in any situation, whether it's a workplace or at home. Because you're so right, oftentimes we immediately hear our ego screaming, giving us responses. And when we pause, when we slow down, we can allow the inner voice, or other side of us, the good side of us, to speak. But we gotta quiet our mind first. Otherwise, we cannot hear the voice of reason.
Right. Yes.
So many single parents battle loneliness after leaving a painful relationship. What helped you feel connected again, both to others and to yourself?
Wow, Irina, that is a hard place to go as a single parent. You asked early what were the challenges, and I talked about the financial struggles and, finding a job and the fears of the unknown. I didn't mention the loneliness because that's a very vulnerable place, right? But it is so real. And I absolutely have experienced that and am still in a journey of being able to understand that element in my life now, because that desire is still so strong in me of wanting to be able to share my life with a partner and wanting to be able to experience that intimacy and connection with someone else. And at the beginning, though, I will tell you that I didn't experience very much loneliness for the first probably 6 months, I would say, because getting away from that situation created an absolute peace that I didn't even know existed, right? It had been a place that was there was so much conflict and chaos in my home previously that I didn't even realize how tense I was and how much it was impacting me on a daily basis. And even being able to go to sleep at night and experience that peace. The first 6 months, I was not even thinking about being lonely, right? Because I was just enjoying the peace of being out of that toxic relationship. And honestly, because of all of the damage that I'd experienced from a male, I didn't trust men. I didn't want to be around men. I didn't want to have anything to do with men. So I was totally fine being all by myself. I didn't stay in that place though. And I got to in my healing, and as I progressed, as I mentioned, I had regular sessions with a therapist who was helping me. And as I progressed through that, it did become very much a struggle of loneliness and of not feeling connected. I mentioned that I had an incredibly supportive community and close friends who were constantly in contact with me, but it still felt like I was disconnected from other human beings. It felt like I was very alone. I felt like I was making all of the parenting decisions by myself. It felt like I was attending all of the events that my kids were participating in, all of their activities by myself. It just resonated like every single moment of every single activity, I'm by myself, getting invited to work parties and I'm by myself, going to a restaurant and I see all these other couples sitting at tables together and I'm by myself. So it just seemed to scream at me from every angle. Schalee, you're by yourself, you're by yourself. And it highlighted that sense of loneliness for me. So for me, what has been extremely beneficial and getting to a place of feeling connected and fulfilled as a single woman now has been going through a course that a life coach has walked me through. It's called Authentic Leadership Journey. I actually just had my last session of that yesterday. It was a 12-week course and focuses on professional and personal elements in our life and enabling us to be rewired. The mindsets that are subconscious beliefs that really trigger those kind of insecurities and those kind of feelings of loneliness, and being able to reframe and rewire my perspective on those things, my beliefs about who I am. And for me, that has been the most powerful part of it, is really knowing who I am and that I can enjoy healthy relationships, even though I don't have a partner, that being lonely or not lonely is actually my decision. I can choose to enjoy the healthy relationships that I have, or I can constantly be looking at what I don't have. And that's always available. Both of those things are always available to me to say, well, I don't have this, or I do have this, and I'm going to enjoy what I have. So that's where I'm at right now.
No, thank you. Totally. I totally get it. I think the best relationship we ever have is a relationship with ourselves. When we fall in love with ourselves, when we understand who we are, that we are not. In my personal journey, I thought that I was someone else's mom and someone else's spouse. I didn't know who I was. And I got it. I went on a journey to discover who I am. And it was an amazing journey, and I'm still on it. And it's up to us to decide, yes, if we want to be with somebody or not. But in the end of the day, we gotta love who we are. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes.
All the different dimensions of our personality that makes us who we are. Right. Sometimes other people think, oh, they're lonely, they're always alone, but it's not what they think, it's what we think, how we see ourselves in this life, because in the end of the day, we are creating our own life. It's up to us what we want to create. And I quote, I went on a journey to discover what normal is, but what I've learned is we get to define our normal. Maybe what makes me happy makes you miserable. I guess we all get to define what that way is, like just like we know how to make a perfect cup of tea for ourselves or coffee, if that's what you love. We also can know what it is that makes us feel alive, what brings us joy on a day-to-day basis. And speaking of joy, what helps you? You describe yourself as a fun-loving encourager. How did you protect that light? The encouraging light during the hardest seasons?
Yes. Okay. Well, I really appreciate what you just shared. And I think that that is such a valuable way for us to invest our time in really discovering who we are and what we want our life to be like. The things that really make us feel alive and excite us. And to give a very real example that just occurred, I was invited to a Christmas party. Going to be on December 12th with a fabulous group of people. And I received the invitation in my inbox and was going to RSVP. And in the RSVP section, there's a place for you to put your +1. In that moment, I thought, okay, there's several options available to me right now. I could choose not to go because I don't have a +1. I could choose to just ask somebody to go with me, right? Or I can go as I am. I can go by myself and I can enjoy it thoroughly. And so that was my choice. I said, I'm going to say that I am going by myself. I am going to go out and shop for a new outfit to wear that night. I am going to go in ready to have a blast. And that's who I am. I am fun loving. I enjoy parties. I enjoy meeting new people. I enjoy the whole aspect of getting to celebrate. And I could choose in those kind of moments to sit at home because I don't have someone to go with me. But I'm not going to. I'm going to enjoy being who I am. I'm going to enjoy doing things by myself and make it what I want it to be. So for me, that means going out and getting a new outfit that I can wear and having a fun time, meeting new people and building new relationships and celebrating life.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you. What do you think is the most important trait to instill in a child?
There are a lot of things that I hope to teach my kids, like, having their room clean and having good hygiene and being able to eat healthy and lots of different things that cross my mind on a daily basis about what I want to teach my kids. But the most important thing, the thing that I constantly focus on is I want my kids to know that they are loved, that who they are is valuable, that they can make mistakes, that they don't have to perform to earn love, that they don't have to become someone that other people want them to be in order to receive love, that they are valuable and loved exactly as they are, that they can be themselves, that they can have opportunity to express their true self without having to stifle that or feel like that they don't have a place to express that. So for me, that is the most important thing that I can give my kids.
I love it. I think that's so important because oftentimes, at least when we were growing up, you gotta get good grades and then you get a reward and you gotta be quiet. You get another reward. So
Yes.
It's always so conditional that you have to achieve something, prove something. You always in this game of you have to prove yourself all your whole life. And for what reason? For what purpose? Why is it so necessary? And that's how kind of we are being brought up. And it's not to say because that's how our caregivers, our parents, that's what they knew, and they can only teach us what they know. But now, as we kind of navigate life, as we learn, we can maybe impact better lessons or a different side of the lesson. I mean, everything has like kind of two sides, a good and a bad, and we can start kind of understanding as we navigate our own journey and sharing that with our kids.
It is true. There is balance, Serena, right? And it's not that because I want to focus on my kids not having to prove their worth that I completely throw out the window them getting good grades, right? I still find ways to motivate them to get good grades in school. And there's balance in all of that. But I completely agree with what you've said that as parents, we have an opportunity to not just follow the same patterns that we experienced ourselves, that we have an opportunity to give our kids something better.
Thank you. When you were growing up, did you have a dream of who you wanted to be when you were little?
I had several people that as I was growing up, I wanted to imitate. And the first one that I can remember, which I think would have been when I was about 8 years old, was Abraham Lincoln. I read every book that I could get my hands on about Abraham Lincoln. I thought it was the coolest thing how he went from this, boy who grew up in a rural area and then became president of the United States of America. That's the kind of life that I wanted to live, was a life that would positively impact the world, which is what he did. And that has been what has inspired me along the way, even as I think about other people that I've been motivated to want to imitate. They are people who came from a very difficult place in life and were able, because of that, to lead with compassion and empathy, and that they were genuinely caring about the people that they were leading rather than wanting to get in a position of leadership because of the power that they could feel if they had this position, right? That they were in those positions of leadership because of the way that they could benefit the lives of others by being in that position. So that has been what has constantly inspired me, and that's what I dream about becoming.
I think you realize the dream.
Right.
You're doing the things that you were dreaming about. It's incredible. Did you have anybody when you were growing up, any person you looked up to, any hero in your life?
So there are several people that have had an influence in my life in that kind of way. One of them was Johnny Erickson Tata. She is a woman who, at the age of 18, jumped into a lake and hit a rock, became paralyzed. She was a quadriplegic the rest of her life. And for a lot of people, when something like that happens and you go through this extremely difficult experience, for her, it was a long period of time that she was under surgeries and in the hospital. And there was just a very long process of her even being able to sit in a wheelchair again. And she was very limited in her movement. But she didn't allow what happened to her to dictate who she was. And she learned to become an incredible artist using her mouth to draw and paint. She had artwork displayed in galleries. I mean, fabulous artwork. She traveled around the world as a motivational speaker who shared and encouraged people and created an entire nonprofit that would provide wheelchairs and other resources for people around the world. And her life had an incredible impact. It is so heroic, though, that she chose to not get stuck in her limitations, but to see how what had happened to her wasn't a setback in her life as much as it was a stepping stone into her being able to reach a massive amount of people that would not have ever been possible if she hadn't gone through what she went through, and if she hadn't had to overcome the things that she overcame.
Love it. And I think you are living that example. You didn't let your past define you, and you are reinventing yourself as you go along. And such an inspiring quality to have, that our past does not define our future. We get to define what that future is by writing it every single day.
I think you can say that again, because that's such a powerful nugget of truth right there, Arena.
How they say that life is gonna happen to you, and it's actually 20% what happens and 80% is how you react to what happens. What do you choose to make of it? We can suffer a second or a decade. It's all up to us. We get to decide. It might sound harsh to somebody who is in a dark place, who feels there is no way out, but at the end of the day, we create everything. Whether it was beneficial for us or not in the moment, but we create everything in our life. All the good and the bad, and when we get to the realization of taking responsibility for what we created, however miserable it was, we created everything. When we get to that.
And I think it's good for our listeners who are in that hard place to have that encouragement of, we know what it's like to experience the pain, to be in tears, to feel the weight of that moment. But it's temporary, and it's our choice of whether we stay there or not. So there is always a way out. We don't have to stay in that place of pain. We can learn and grow and move forward.
Yeah. Was there a book that inspired your journey or something that was beneficial that you can recommend to others?
There are several books that have been a part of my journey, helping me learn and grow. And I'm reading your book now, and so I'm learning from you as I'm doing that. Your book, The Gift Inside. So yes, I think I've read more books in the last 2 years than I did the previous 2 decades. So there are several different books that I could mention that have had an influence in me and that have really shaped who I am, because we are shaped by our thoughts. Our behaviors are a result of what we allow ourselves to think. And so as we allow ourselves to be influenced, the thoughts that we choose are going to create the life that we enjoy. I would say that the book, though, that has had the most influence for me, Irina, has been the Bible, God's Word, and the way that that has helped shape my ability to understand that I am loved, and that there's that assurance of God giving me exactly what I need. I had a really strong experience of that earlier this year in February. I went, and somebody might say, well, that is a weird moment for you to have this experience with God. I was running at a marathon in Mesa, Arizona, and I was prepping for the marathon the night before. I was wanting to, go to bed early because I was going to have to get up early. And I was thinking through everything, from what I was going to wear to what I was going to eat the next day, to making sure that I had all the hydration and the was the way that it needed to be so that I could be successful in the race and qualify for Boston, because that was my goal. So I'm laying there in bed, having a hard time going to sleep because all of these things are going through my head. And I hear God's voice repeat to me over and over and over, Schalee, I am giving you everything you need for your success. Schalee, I'm giving you everything you need for your success. And that completely diminished all of the doubts, all of the worries, all of the negative thoughts of, am I going to be able to do this? And gave me incredible peace. And that has been repeated over and over and over since that time in February, of having that incredible assurance of, not only do I have skills and abilities and have been able to learn and grow, but God is continually at work to give me the things that I need each day and enable me to be successful.
Thank you. You're so right. When we worry ourselves, worry is just no way to. It doesn't create any, just causes us to be in distress. Does not create an ease. That's what worry does. It steals away the joy of today.
That is so true, Irina. And we don't have to choose to worry. Jesus numerous times in the Bible repeats, do not worry. Do not worry. And I have read that I don't know how many times. But finally, I decided to actually believe it. And now I'm like feeling so free. When you don't have to worry about things, you're like, wow, you just feel lighter. You feel like, this is awesome because I can walk through each day and I don't have to worry. I can enjoy my life and I can enjoy the relationships that I have, and I can enjoy getting to be on a podcast. I can enjoy getting to go on a walk outside. I can enjoy, like I was telling you earlier, I can enjoy getting to run in cold weather, you know? it just gives us an incredible.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Is there anything I haven't asked that you would like to share?
As a single parent, Rina, I think that, you mentioned earlier that who defines normal, right? What does normal look like? And I would encourage all the listeners to step outside of the box the mold that our societies and cultures create of what life, the ideal life looks like, and give yourself permission, be free to enjoy the life that you have. There's so many different family dynamics and relationship dynamics and opportunities that all of us are given. So we can either look at everybody else and compare our lives to them, which I'm not saying I have done that, right? I've looked at other people and been like, well, my life isn't like theirs. However, we get also the option to say, I am going to enjoy my life and embrace it fully. So whatever your life looks like, it is beautiful. You have a beautiful life. Embrace it fully and experience the freedom of not having to compare or fit yourself into this ideal mold.
Thank you. Very well said. Thank you. If people would like to connect and learn more about you, where would they go?
You can go directly to my website. It is Schalee Sanchez, spelled SCHALEE ShaleeSanchez.com. There you can find out more about my book, about speaking engagements, about my podcast. You also can get on my newsletter. You can email me from there. So that's the best way to connect with me, but I'm also on Facebook, Instagram. You can find me there under my name, Schalee Sanchez.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you for having the courage to live your life on your terms and taking that first bold decision of living and starting.
Irina, it has been truly a delight to be on this podcast with you. I am so grateful to have the opportunity to have connected with you because you have inspired me in the brief moments that I've been able to share with you. It has been so encouraging to hear the ways that you have yourself been courageous and bold and brave. And I'm learning from you and continue to as I read more of your book and listen to more of your content. So thank you for being who you are. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be with you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is taking one step without knowing the whole path. If something in this conversation stayed with you, don't ignore it. That quiet knowing inside you is there for a reason. And maybe today is your first step. If this episode spoke to you, take a moment to subscribe, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and leave a review. You never know whose life could change from a single step, just like this one.